Hi everybody, welcome back to another ASUS ROG Ally video, and in this one I'm going to be showcasing the performance of Cyberpunk 2077. Now remember, this is the non-extreme version of the ROG Ally, which at the time of recording this video isn't actually available in the UK. You can buy the extreme version, and the difference between the models is the extreme version has more powerful processors. Everything else is the same: the screen, the 512 gigabytes worth of storage, the 16 gigabytes worth of RAM, all that is the same, but it has higher performance, whereas this one doesn't. So what you've got to do with this version of the ROG Ally, or what I think you've got to do anyway, is change the screen in the settings to 720p and flick it down from 120 frames per second max to 60 hertz, and then whenever you go into a game, make sure that it is set to 720p, and then you get very good performance indeed. Well, for a handheld anyway. You've got to remember, all of this is relative. You've got to manage your expectations, I think, with handheld PCs, whether that be the Steam Deck or the ROG Ally or the Legion Go and something like that. The fact that you've got something like Cyberpunk 2077, which is one of the most demanding graphically games to run on a full-size PC when it came out, and yet here it is running on this thing that can fit in your hand, and it looks very, very nice. Now you'll notice that on the screen I haven't got an FPS counter. And that's because the ROG Ally has this really beautiful variable refresh rate screen, which means that even at low, this is where we got to go, even at low frame rates, the games can look very, very smooth indeed, which is incredibly impressive. And I will put the frame rate counter on a little bit so you can get an idea. But what this means is, even when you're running between 20 and 30 frames a second, games look really, really nice. And obviously with something like Cyberpunk 2077 on the non-extreme version of the ROG Ally, that could well be a bit of an issue. Also, I think what happens with the non-extreme version of the ROG Ally, because in these handheld videos, I think it's important to run the console handheld and not run it plugged into a power supply, is because this is how you're going to use it, isn't it? You're going to use it handheld, so it's going to be limited in its power, probably to sort of 15 watts TDP, which is the kind of way they describe the different power modes. I think that what happens is, at 15 watts TDP, the extreme version of the ROG Ally doesn't have a big advantage over the non-extreme version than it does when it's plugged in. So in practical terms, I think what that means is, if you've got access to one of these, the non-extreme version, and then you can still buy these in America at Best Buy for $400, which is about £350, which, if you ask me, is a bit of a bargain. What it means is, this is more suited to being played handheld, because you don't get as big of a performance jump when you plug it into a power supply and go up to sort of 25 watts. So if you want to use this as a desktop or a laptop replacement, when you plug it into a big monitor or a monitor and then plug it into a power supply, you don't get the same jump in performance that you will get with the extreme version. Because with the extreme version, it's got all these extra cores with this more powerful processor, which means that when you plug it into the power, there is a big difference. Whereas in my testing, I haven't really noticed that much difference in power. So it makes this little handheld Windows game PC very, very intriguing indeed. And this screen is fantastic. I wish they put this screen on the Steam Deck. The advantage and the disadvantage of the ROG Ally is, of course, it's a Windows 11 PC, and we know that Windows isn't optimized for handheld gaming. So you get things like updates getting in the way. It can be a bit buggy. You've got to do restarts can take quite a long time. Battery life, compared to the Steam Deck, really isn't very good at all. So if you're playing something like this, like Cyberpunk, it's going to chew through your battery pretty quick. But I guess the thing about my use case scenario is that, say I might take this to work and use it on my lunch break, but my lunch break's only half an hour long. So if I can get a game of Helldivers in, or a little bit of Cyberpunk, or a little bit of sort of Resident Evil or something like that. I'm very happy indeed. And the beauty of Windows PCs is, just as Gabe Newell said in an interview that I was watching, an old interview that I was watching about the Steam Deck, is that the strength of the PC infrastructure and the PC system is so open. And obviously, this being a Windows 11 PC, you can do anything on here that you would do on a Windows PC. Whereas the problem with the Steam Deck is that it really is tied into Steam. And Steam OS, so certain games, don't install because you can't install the launcher, or their anti-cheat doesn't get on with Linux and all that sort of stuff. Undoubtedly, the Steam Deck is much more of a console experience. You turn the Steam Deck on, your library comes up, and it feels almost like an Xbox or a PlayStation experience. Where this, you can boot up into Armory Crate. And you do heavy games, but I actually prefer to boot up into the Windows desktop, and I say, look, this is a Windows PC. That's its strength, and that's what I like about it. And what you should be seeing here is this performance. It's not bad, is it? This looks pretty good, and that variable refresh rate screen, combined with a fair amount of motion blur. Does make Cyberpunk run nice and smooth. Now I'm running with the Steam Deck settings, but slightly altered. So what I do is I turn the crowd density up from low to medium, and then some of the other settings that are on high I turn down to medium. I think it's to do with things like reflections and stuff like that to get this experience. And it's very smooth. It's very, very good and very enjoyable and very, very playable. And even though we are running at 720p instead of 1080p, the screen looks sharp and bright and contrasty. And although it might not have quite the darks of the Steam Deck and the brights of the Steam Deck, which has a much more brighter and darker screen because it's an OLED, it still looks really, really cool, and it is a pleasure to play. Anyway, woo! Okay, so let's get off the bike because it's difficult to... Have I just got myself into a fight? Oh gosh, run away. So I think I just ran over a police officer by mistake. Okay. Oh, how do we put our gun away? I'm a bit rusty with... Oh, there we go. We put our gun away. Okay, so we're safe. So we can have a kind of a wander around at our leisure. So I'll tell you what. Now we're off the bike. Let's put the monitor on. There we go. So you can actually see what we're getting in terms of frames per second. So we're in quite an open area of the city here, but we are in Night City. As you can see, we're getting about 30 frames a second. If there was a lot of action going on, that would significantly slow down. But I know that if I was playing this on the Steam Deck at this and getting this sort of frame rate out of it, it would look a lot more jerky. When you turn around and you get that like stuttering effect. Funnily enough, though, one of the problems you do get, because this is a Windows PC, is you do get more hitching, and you do get it's something that happens. And Gamers Nexus did some interesting videos about this, and what they were basically saying that with these Windows gaming PCs, with like the extreme version of the Ally Z1 and the Legion Go, often they will have higher maximum FPSs in games, and their average might be a little bit higher as well, but the lows can be lower because obviously Windows in the background likes doing different things. So you'll just be wandering around and all of a sudden the game will drop a load of frames and like freeze for a little bit. And you don't get that as often on the Steam Deck. So although the average frame per second on the Steam Deck may well be a little bit lower, it's a smoother experience. But again, with this variable refresh rate screen on the Ally, it is very, very smooth indeed. Very, very playable. Indeed, and very, very enjoyable. You could argue that one of the problems with the Ally is the sticks. They're very lightweight, the sticks. They don't have much pushback. I would like to have a stiffer stick, to coin a phrase. But everything else is very, very nice indeed. In fact, I think One of the things that may well be interesting this year in 2024 is whether we get, there's rumours that we will be getting a ROG Ally 2. And I think if they can address the battery life, to make the battery life, a bit longer, this has a 40 watt hour battery, but I think the new Steam Deck has a 45 watt hour battery, and maybe do something with Windows. Microsoft needs to sort something out and do an optimized version of Windows for handheld gaming. Then we could start seeing something special indeed, because one of the problems you have is that the Windows 11 that is on this ROG Ally, it's full fat Windows, so there's Cortana, there's all the AI stuff, helper stuff, it's offering to sell you Microsoft Office and all that sort of thing, things that you're never going to use, probably never going to use on this sort of device. What is very cool though about the Ally, and I think this is different to the Steam Deck, is that if you were to ask me, which one should you buy? Should you go for a ROG Ally, or should you go for something like the Steam Deck? What I always say with the Steam Deck is, I think if you've already got a gaming PC and a mature gaming library, I say, then the Steam Deck is a really nice accessory for you to then add to that, in the same way that you might get a VR headset. But I wouldn't recommend a Steam Deck if it's like your first foray into Windows gaming. Because it's limited in the launchers that you can use, and you can't take advantage of things like you can't easily take advantage of things like the Epic Games Store, where you can get free games every week. However, with the ROG Ally, and even with this version, the non-extreme version of the ROG Ally, I think what's very exciting is, because it is a full Windows 11 gaming PC, it gives you an in to gaming. In fact, if we jump into let's go to the desktop, you can see here that I've got GOG Galaxy for Cyberpunk, I've got the Epic Game Launcher, I've got Battle.net for Call of Duty, I've got the Amazon Games Launcher, I've got Xbox for Xbox Game Pass games and streaming, and I've got Steam as well. And although you can get other launchers working on, we want to put a gun away, don't we? On the Steam Deck, it's not intuitive. It's not that simple. It's not as easy as on something like the ROG Ally. So there we go. The ROG Ally. If you're in America and you can pick one of these up from Best Buy for about $400, then this could be really interesting, because you can use it as a gaming PC. You can plug it into a monitor, and okay, it's not going to be running great. It's probably still going to be running at 720p, and you're not going to be getting the higher frame rates that you get from its bigger brother, the Extreme. But for the price, I don't think you could get like a gaming laptop or a gaming desktop anywhere near it. And remember, as I said at the beginning of this video, this is Cyberpunk 2077. This is the game that when it came out was, people were like having to use like the most powerful PCs to get it getting it to run, and yet here it is running on this little small machine. So there we go. Hopefully this has been a useful video. If it has, hit like. If you want to see more of the same, press subscribe, and I will of course see you again soon.